There's a very interesting article during the week in the Melbourne papers concerning Dr. Jack Goldberg and boots a turn for the better. A boot that Dr. Jack has designed. It's something that's not new for him. It's something that he started on about 8 years ago, and he joins us today. And there have been a lot of knee injuries. Welcome to Game Day, Jack.
Thank you.
Jack, tell us about the background of this and how you came about developing this particular boot and how you think it might be able to help the spate of knee injuries that we've suffered in the last few years.
I've been in general practice and in sports doctoring for many years, and my concerns with knee injuries commenced when my sons were playing with Melbourne under-19s and in the reserves. Melbourne at the time had a spate of knee injuries, and 9 of the senior players at that stage were having knee operations. It led to the Chris Connolly ceasing to play. I think it was tragic and a great loss at the time, and I decided that something needed to be done to be able to decrease the number of knee injuries.
Well, let's have a look at the boot and just tell us how you think it can help.
Well, the shoe acts on the basis that the foot can turn while the studs are still firmly implanted into the ground, so that with the studs in the ground, the body weight can allow the foot to turn and take the strain off the knee joint. And this occurs in situations such as coming down from a mark with your foot landing into the ground and your body still turning, or when running along and needing to change direction quickly. In situations where you're using a conventional shoe, the knee is the joint that takes all the strain and often leads to the injuries.
I know you had a quick chat to Don Scott, a veteran of over 300 games, a Hawthorn captain. Don, I think you've got one of the boots down below. Your first impressions?
Yeah, well, Bruce, I think it's just fantastic that somebody is actually starting to think about the players as far as their footwear is concerned. Beside the football, this boot is the second most important piece of equipment on the ground. And for years, and I mean years now, companies really haven't given enough thought to the actual boot and what it's doing and all that. And as far as Jack is concerned, I don't know if the boot's good or bad, but I think it's just fantastic that somebody's actually now starting to think about it.
Well, Ross Glendinning, the Brownlow medalist, is over in Perth at the moment. Ross, I don't know if you've been keeping up with this story, but it's an interesting development.
Yes, I did read it during the week, Bruce, and can I ask, Jack, has someone tried it where, for instance, if you're having a set shot for goal or just a normal kick throughout the course of a game, when your planted foot hits the ground, is that movement going to occur as well? Which, what I'm trying to say is, will that cause some problems with kicking skills?
Now, we've done a lot of stability testing,
right,
and it actually comes out more favourably as a stable shoe.
Right.
It relies on the fact that it will only turn when your body weight is actually turning.
Yep. Okay, can I also follow up by saying Dr. Brian Dawson, who's the phys ed person at the West Coast Eagles, he's saying when asked about the number of knee injuries that it's predominantly because players now are so much more physically stronger through weight programs and are also very quick. So that combined speed and weight strength combination on impact with another player at speed is really the cause of a lot of these knee problems.
Yes, a lot of things lead to the knee taking a lot of the strain, and the only way of trying to reduce a lot of these injuries is to reduce the strain on the knee, and this shoe is a way of trying to do that.
Jack, can I be the devil's advocate here and ask a few questions that have readily come to mind? One is, the broad last, is it a broad or narrow last the boot is made on? Because Australians notoriously have a broad last, and all the boots, or nearly all the boots, are made on a European last, which naturally enough causes the foot to rotate, go over.
Yeah. We've deliberately chosen a broad last, both for comfort and it should be more stable.
Now also, Jack, the placement of the stops. Now I notice on these particular boots that you've got here, again, they're about 3/4, if I can show to camera, 3/4 away across the boot. Now, and I'm turning back the clock, I hate doing this, but when I played, I had mine handmade, and the stops were put on the outside to give extra stability. Still, these stops are still at 3/4 of the way across, so you're still going to go over.
The stops have been placed at the same position as a normal studded shoe. There are various ways of trying to change position, but we've tried to keep the shoe as conventional as possible so that people that are used to a studded shoe, this won't be any different to them.
And what about as far as ankle injuries concerned? Now, okay, we're worrying about the knee, but because of the turning, what about the effect on the ankle?
Most ankle injuries are related to the foot turning in, not due to rotation of the body. I wouldn't think this shoe would make any difference to ankle injuries.
And also, Jack, being a sports doctor, and you'd be well aware that guys now do have their ankles strapped. Every player that walks out on this ground has his ankles strapped. Now, surely that must put a lot of pressure on the knee, because the knee and the groin are the only other two parts of the lower limb that are able to move. Consequently, you have the injury.
There's still a lot of argument as to whether ankle strapping or different methods of restricting the ankle affect the other joints, and it's a balance between trying to protect the ankle and affecting other joints in the body.
So what about the mechanics? Also, now we get to the mechanics of the thing. Now, where a machine is involved, we're always going to have problems. Now, this actual boot, we can demonstrate, does spin to the left and also to the right. But you've got a spring in there. Now, how reliable is this spring going to be? Will it clog up with mud and so forth? Because there are areas where mud, water and so forth, sand, grit can get in. So how functional is it going to be? And also, why haven't you put a disc on the back as well as the front?
In the situation where knee injuries occur, it's with the foot on the front of the foot. It's always when your balance is forward, and so that you only need the rotation on the front of the foot.
What about the spring, Jack?
The spring will last as long as a shoe can last, so the spring mechanism is no problem. There's also a membrane that covers the disc mechanism that stops mud and sand from getting in.
Don, any more, because we'll move on?
No, Bruce, no. I'd just like to
Been
congratulate Jack, because I think I just think anything along this line is terrific.
And Ross in Perth, you happy?
No, look, I think anything as an advantage is just fantastic, and I wish you well, Jack.
And just finally, Jack, where are you at with it? I mean, have you spoken to the AFL? And
we haven't spoken to them. I mean, because of the knee injury problems, the movement of preventive footwear has advanced a bit, but we're expecting that in the next 3 to 6 months the shoe should be available to the public.
And Don, I think you've got one more.
Just one more, Bruce, and this is really a political thing, because how are you going to get exposure AFL level? Because clubs now, and it's wrong, they've forced their players to wear a particular boot because a company pays X amount of money to the club. Consequently, the player's got to wear it. It's not to his advantage in a lot of cases now. How are you going to get this through, Jack, AFL-wise?
When it comes to actual injury prevention, I don't think that any commercial concerns should interfere with injury prevention.
Jack, can I tell you something? You're older than me, but you're a little bit naive as far as these clubs go. Let me tell you that right now.
Well, Jack, thanks very much for coming in.
Thank
it was
you.
a very interesting article and an interesting discussion there, and we'll be following that through. Good luck with it.
Thank you.
Dr. Jack Goldberg. Just stay there for one moment, Jack. We're going to have plenty more on game day right after this.